Greetings. You're listening to Rebels Remembered, featuring Caitlin DeFord and Kelsey DeFord.
Alrighty, welcome to Rebels Remembered. I am Caitlin.
I am Kelsey.
And today we are discussing episode 12, Vision of Hope, which aired on February 2nd, 2015. It was written by Henry Gilroy, directed by Stephen G. Lee. And a short synopsis of this episode is, after experiencing a vision of the future, Ezra leads the Ghost Crew into a meeting with a potential ally.
And I will say, yay, that this is written by Henry Gilroy.
I love Henry Gilroy.
I didn't know, I didn't catch on to writers until probably season 2.
Yeah, me too.
But then I was rewatching this when I got to the I was like, oh, he wrote that one. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically this episode opens with Kanan trying to teach Ezra to deflect
Lightsaber blasts
from, I guess, Sabine is firing on him. I think Zeb is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Zeb and Sabine are shooting, stun blasts.
Luckily, they're stun blast.
Yeah. So while this is going on, we're getting a little bit more of Ezra training with the lightsaber. We haven't really seen that since he got it. And during this whole thing is when he starts to see, he first starts hearing something, and then all of a sudden he starts, seeing flashes of images of a vision. Question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So his vision, before I get on to ask you that question, is Senator Gal Travis, who was mentioned in Rise of the Old Masters, I believe, saying that your parents were very brave, and that's all he gets. So that's Ezra's vision. But my question for you is, did you, before this episode, when you first watched it going back, did you understand Jedi visions of that nature?
I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to say no. At least, I didn't think that a person could do them while they were conscious. Okay. If that makes sense. I would think you'd be either be meditating, you'd be asleep, and you'd be dreaming. I never thought that it would be while you're awake. What did you think about this?
Again, this was when I was still kind of fairly new to Star Wars. I had seen the original trilogy, and that's it. But I didn't really think about visions, because I think that's one question I asked Dad when we were watching it together, was, wait, Jedis have visions?
Well, I remembered a little bit of, Luke's vision in his Empire Strikes Back, when he's seeing his friends in pain, that's all you get. You don't see the vision, so maybe that's what's different about it, but also, he was trying, and that's where I sort of was like, oh, was he so in tune with the Force that he's able to see some sort of part of the future?
And that's where I start to kind of get confused, is, Jedi seeing the future, it's difficult for me to comprehend, because you think if they could see the future, but again, they always can't predict outcomes. It's kind of like you're just getting pieces of stuff.
And obviously, when we get to the episode, is that Kanan obviously tells Ezra, you're too emotionally invested in this vision, and I'll talk about that later, what I think interpreted that, to fully comprehend it. And that's why Force visions are they're difficult to interpret, because it's flashes of things. There's no context. It'd be like seeing an episode and you have no context with what's, flashes of what's happening. Mm-hmm. But, I go back to Anakin seeing Padme die. That was a Force vision in the future, but
it was almost like it causes their own...
because he was so fixated on it, and that's being attached to emotion, which leads... Yeah. You're supposed to meditate on that and understand... give your own self therapy on why you're thinking the things that you're thinking.
Yeah.
But, we'll get to that in a minute. But, I knew about Force visions, but I just didn't think that, besides Luke, in Empire Strikes Back, that you could be conscious and aware of your actions when you're having a vision.
Well, that's what the outline says, that Ezra kind of slips into a trance-like state, and that's when he starts hearing... First he starts hearing stuff, then he starts seeing stuff. And then he kind of blacks out, in a way. Yeah. And when he wakes up, he's like, well, what's... Because I think the whole time he's trying to deflect blast at a...
Stormtrooper helmet.
Yeah, helmet. On the ground. And until he has his vision, he's like, what happened? Did I miss the target? And then Kanan says...
No, you deflected everyone.
Which is interesting.
So it was almost like he was so in tune with his surroundings that I don't know if that caused a force vision. I don't think that's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know what triggers a force vision. I'd have to do more research on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And other nerds to figure that out. I will say I do like that when he wakes up and he kind of pulls the Wizard of Oz thing.
Yeah.
You were there and you were there, pointing at Sabine and Zeb and Kanan, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, and then he's just... Well, the thing that's got Ezra now is, I think he knew my parents.
Yes, and that's the emotion coming in. It's clouding everything.
Well, interestingly enough, the person that was in his vision, Hera, that's when Hera comes out and says, hey, Travis just did a broadcast. Which is kind of interesting how that just happened to go at that moment. And of course, Ezra's super excited, and he's thinking this vision that he saw is going to happen. He's going to be able to meet Travis, and, you know, thinking that he knows his parents, which, again, like you said, is a more of an emotional thing. So they go into the side of the ghost, and Hera has recorded the Senator's latest broadcast, and he has like a hidden message in it, because Hera says every world he visits, he puts coded messages in just for the locals, and I can't remember the exact phrase he uses, but basically the hidden message is saying Travis wants to meet them at
where a Freedom mural is in the old Republic building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like how when they first get word that Travis is about to do a broadcast, Hera and Ezra is so gung-ho to watch this guy, and then the rest of them are kind of walking to the ghost, and Ezra like full boats and runs to the ghost. I don't know, I thought that was kind of cute. It's like, hey, our favorite show's on. And the other people are like, oh, this guy again. We've heard about him so much.
So then they're discussing, like, well, how are we gonna... Before we move in, I think Kanan's the one that says, are we sure that the Empire isn't able to understand his messages
as well? Yeah.
And that's when they tell, I think, is it Hera that says, Ezra, well, luckily you have a contact in Lothal that can tell us if they know get more information.
Because this could possibly be a trap. Or the Empire is wanting to trap rebels that are responding to this message.
Yeah.
And we get to see Zare Leotis again.
Yeah, and that's his contact is Zare, and we haven't seen him in quite a while. And that's when he tells him there's a heavy Imperial presence around the Senate building.
Which, if it's not being used, why is there a heavy presence around the building?
Yeah. And that makes Ezra think, oh, they're going to capture the senator. I got to go tell them, what's happening or whatever.
What world is he a senator of?
Is he not the senator of Lothal?
Is he? I don't know. Is he? I'm going to have to do research now. Go down the rabbit hole. I can't
remember. I want to say he's the senator of Lothal.
I thought that was somebody else. Or am I thinking later down the road? I think I'm thinking later down the road.
So yeah, Zare tells him that, there's a mass operation at the Senate building, and him and Ezra kind of have this moment, because he's still calling him Dev Morgan.
Yeah. I have in my notes that, right before, he gets his intel, he's like, okay, obviously there's probably a trap, I gotta go warn the others, and then, Zare says, I'm about to be transferred, like, we won't see each other, I won't be able to give you intel anymore, because he's moving up the ranks, I guess, in the Imperial, whatever. And he's like, oh, Dev's not my name. And before he can tell him, some stormtroopers spot him.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of sad. Like, he never gets to know.
And I think this is the last time we see Zare.
Is it really?
In this series. Aww. I could be wrong about that. I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
So, yeah, stormtroopers close in, and then I think Zare says, oh, I caught that Lothrat trying to...
Black market, sell something, or something like that. Kind of cover himself.
And, of course, Ezra escapes the stormtroopers. Then we get this cut to Agent Kallus. This is kind of interesting where, you've had this... the Inquisitor wants to capture Kanan. Because...
And Ezra. His job is to exterminate the other Jedi.
And you have this moment where Kallus is like, they're not the main goal. I think he says he's put too much stock in capturing them. I want the rebels. Them as a team. As a group.
Because if you find the rebels and you find the Jedi, they're going to be involved too.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of interesting, because the last time we saw the Inquisitor in was it Gathering Forces, wanted to separate, or not wanted to separate. He was tracking just Kanan and Ezra's force signature somehow. And he was like, the rebels, So it's it's interesting to see two different, only two different strategies from the Imperial officers, but also the fact that Kallus is able to openly criticize his.
Yeah, that's what I thought was
decision-making.
interesting too, is because they're both on the Imperial side, but Callus is looking at a different way than he is. So the crew decides to warn Travis and go rescue him because they think the heavy Imperial presence is to capture him. But when they get there and they're looking at all the stormtroopers, I think Hera asks the question, why haven't they moved in to capture him? And then Kanan says,
Well, they're probably waiting for us.
they're waiting for us. But it's still kind of weird, especially when you look at when they look through the binoculars and you see you see 4 stormtroopers.
You see 2 on one alleyway and you see 2 another, and then you see the senator's shuttle with 2 protocol droids. You would think that if a senator of the Republic is making an appearance somewhere, there would be a heavier presence
than what there is.
Welcome them, to talk to them, because that's what they want to do, right?
Yeah, talk to them. Okay, yes. Spying on the stormtrooper presence, they notice the Imperials have not yet entered the complex. Kanan fears a larger setup is in play. In response, Ezra leads the team to a sewer pipe that will take them undetected into the Senate building.
Yeah, and I really think that this is where you see Ezra kind of take the lead on a mission. Because he's the one that had the vision.
He's also a local of the Lothal, so he kind of knows his way around it.
I also do like the part where Chopper almost decapitates Kanan on the sewer door. Did you notice that? He's like, hey, remember to, and he cuts him off, literally, with the door shutting. And part of me was thinking, is that him getting back at him for the last episode? Is that what that is? Or is he just being Chopper?
Well, he's a murder bot, so...
Oh, yeah, and then he murders the Imperial droid that's standing guard over
it. Was that really necessary, Chopper? I mean, he shocked him, and then he's, pushing you in the sewer pipe.
You shocked him. You didn't have to, dump him down the sewer pipe.
Also, this is going to sound so weird. I loved the way that the concept and the way the sewer pipes looked for some reason, because that was interesting.
Yeah. You know how they're all rusted and...
But also, I don't think I've ever been in a Star Wars sewer pipe before. How it looks.
Let's see, we've been in a trash compactor.
True.
But yeah, the
design of it, I guess.
The design and also addressing the fact that people in Star Wars poop. I don't know what that's appealing, but okay.
After navigating the sewers, they find Travis at the New Freedom mural. Just as he secretly conveyed in his broadcast, but all is not as it seems. His protocol droids are blasted, and stormtroopers led by Callus emerge and surround the rebels. So at this point, Kanan, Hera, and Ezra went into the Republic building, and then Kanan told Sabine and Zeb to go up top for cover.
Yeah. So they're kind of in the rafters of the complex, so to speak.
So it's kind of like, it just has Kanan as a leader. He's kind of like, well, we need to be ready for anything.
Yeah, and I think especially after what happened with Luminara.
Oh yeah,
I think that feeds into it too. It's like, yeah, we were fooled once with this kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. By the way, it was also on his broadcast.
Yeah, he told him that Luminara was alive. Yeah, and she wasn't. What's up with that? Oh yeah, Callus walks in. I love this part when he's like, Kanan Jarrus, Jedi Knight, Padawan, Jabba.
He still doesn't know who his name is.
He still calls him Ezra Jabba.
And this is also, I believe, the first time he's met Hera in person.
Yeah, because he says, according to your regalia, I'm guessing you're the pilot of the Ghost Crew. So yeah, that's interesting that he says that. So as this is going on, I think Ezra kind of tells Travis that, don't worry, we're going to get you out of here. And then I think Callus thought he had the drop on him, but he didn't realize that Zeb and Sabine are going to be up there, up top. So they'd doesn't she drop smoke bombs or something for cover? Yeah.
Which I did like how that was animated, seeing the reflections of the
sabers and the blast.
Sabers and the blast, in the smoke. It was really cool.
So they got Travis out, and again, back into the sewers we go. And I find it interesting when they head back into the sewer drain or whatever. Sabine pushes a button on her
wrist,
and it closes the sewer
the vent at the top.
Yeah, I thought that wow, is she tapped into how did that happen?
Yeah, I was wondering that too. It's almost like she can do that, But then they literally have to, like, get this open, and it takes them, like, a good
yes
5-10 minutes to saw into. I don't know what they did. I don't know if they did the same thing she did, or kind of had to hack into it. But yeah, I thought it was kind of odd. It was like, she just could hit a button, but the Imperials had to, like, maybe it was red tape. We need approval to open this door.
yeah. So now they're in the sewers, and of course Callus is not far behind with his troopers. And then you see Travis kind of stopping to catch his breath, like he's out of breath, and he's like, wait a moment. And I'm like, dude, I mean, I understand, but we gotta go. Like, I think Ezra tells me, like, we just want to get out of here as fast as we possibly can. And for me, it might not have been for you, but for me, I was like, this was the first moment, we're gonna go ahead and spoil it now, when I knew he was working for the Empire, because I'm like, if you've been trying to evade them, you would be, I feel like, a little bit more...
Well, see, I'm trying to look at it, when I look back on this episode now, it's very obvious that this guy's a traitor.
Oh, yeah.
For one, when they try to leave, when their original plan was to grab the shuttle he came in on,
Oh, yeah.
it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, gone.
I forgot about that, yeah.
Gone.
Harris says, where's that shuttle when it's
So
not
that's
there?
kind of where I first had a hinting of it, but also, there's a little scene after they leave the little smoked area, and Mr. Two is like, don't let those rebels get away, and then Callus says something like, they haven't yet, or something.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
made me realize that he probably knows that Minister Two, I don't think, knew that Travis was a traitor. I think that was kind of a closely guarded secret between probably some more top Imperial officers or something. But when I watched it back then, I'm trying to think my emotions back then, is I didn't know. I don't know how I didn't know. But in that moment where he was like out of breath and he's not able to keep up, he says, which he's totally lying. But when I first watched it, my instinct was, okay, I thought it was calling back to the fact this guy's a senator and is probably very privileged.
That's kind of what I thought too. Yeah, I
had
could go by that too.
Be in battle before, but obviously that's not the case. I thought that's what it was referring to when I first watched it, but now going back, I can kind of see the little things that.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's hard for me to go back and try to think of me as a first-time viewer with this episode, but also I'm a little bit naive sometimes when it comes to, when I first got into Star Wars, is where I was like, I don't think I truly knew until the moment he came out and said what he said.
It could also be the fact that when this episode aired, I was only 19 and was very trusting of people.
Yeah.
As for now, I'm not very trusting, but because of things happen in your life and drama and whatnot. So I think that was just me being a naive 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Not kid, but, young adult being like, oh, this guy's on their side.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hurry up, dude, you privileged, pompous guy. What do you do with your life? And then you get older, you're like, this guy, he's sus.
But the way he says, like, I think Kanan says, I thought you'd be used to running for the Empire. He said, well, I've never been this close to capture before. When I first watched it, I'm like, I don't like the way he said that. He said it in a way that was, like, kind of, like he was trying to think of a lie.
Yeah, I can see that.
And you see Hera's face of, like, I'm not sure about you.
Yeah. Well, that's what's interesting is that Kanan, we go from initially Kanan being suspect of him. Like, why isn't the Imperial caught on to him? And I'm wondering, if I could ask Freddie Prinze Jr., like, was there some level of his character that did know? Because Hera, we get little things in her emotions and the way she speaks that she obviously figures out that he's a traitor. But I am wondering at any point, was Kanan... I feel like Kanan would have figured it out like her if he had tagged along with... Because when they got split up, Hera and Ezra get split up from the rest of the team.
Well, I think... Yeah, let me segue into that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they split up. I can't remember why they split up, but it's Kanan, Sabine, and Zeb, and then Hera and Ezra go with Travis. And I think that's important because they are the two in the beginning of the episode that believe in him so much.
That's true. Yeah, so maybe to have it more emotional weight, he's going to be with the two people that believed in him the most at that point. Because it makes it more... Disheartening, I guess, when you see their reactions, rather than just with Kanan be like, oh yeah, I kind of totally called it, he might have done that. I don't know. But it's very obvious in the beginning that Hera and Ezra both staunchly believe in this guy, what he stands for.
Yeah, it says Hera and Ezra take the senator while the rest look to draw their attackers away. On the surface, Chopper poses as an Imperial droid, giving the team more time. There's that little snippet with Chopper and the Stormtroopers. I don't know why I always block it out of my memory. I guess because I'm like, I don't really care about Chopper at this point. I love him, but I was like, go back in the sewer. So I'm more interested in what's going on there. But I mean, he played his role.
Again, like he always does.
Continuing their journey underground, Hera, Ezra, and Travis come upon a massive fan. While they stop to figure out a way through, Hera hands the senator a blaster for protection. And she says, watch our backs. And she kind of looks at him like, okay, do I... Oh, before they get to the fan, I gotta mention this. Yeah. He starts asking Ezra all these questions of like, how do y'all operate? You must have a lot of like.
Where do you get your funding?
Yeah.
What are who your allies? Like, give me names. And like, you can see Hera in the background, like her expressions, like very like, I'm not sure about this guy. But you also, when she walks past the screen, you get a little music stamp, like, like kind of a foreboding, ominous kind of thing, and which I didn't notice till I rewatched it.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that part. Yeah. So she hands him a blaster, and that's why she's kind of looking at him like she is, because I think at this point Hera's a smart cookie and she's figured it out.
Yeah,
he's left too many breadcrumbs along the way. And then he uses the blaster that she handed him to turn it on her and Ezra. And I feel so bad for Ezra in this moment because his first reaction is, "What are you doing?" Kind of thing.
He's like me. That was my reaction because I was 19 and believed in people. It's like, what happened? What's this guy doing? You know, kind of naivete a little bit, I will say.
And of course, Hera's just not having it. She just like, I can tell she's disappointed, but I also sense that she's frustrated and angry.
Yeah.
And Travis has this moment where he's like, I joined the Empire like your parents should have. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of lead into part of Ezra's vision when he says, your parents are very brave, ... and very foolish. Which is, again, disheartening for Ezra to hear.
He also, like, says something like he recognizes that he's the Bridger's son, the one that did the freedom transmissions.
Ezra, he said, why are you, I don't understand, you're a voice of freedom, and that's when he's like
my parents. And he's like, oh yeah, I know who your parents are. But I think, again, calling back to it, I'll circle back to this, it's like, the reason that Ezra is so wrapped up with his vision is, like, he wants that connection to his parents, he wants to know what happened to his parents.
Yeah.
He's searching for any connection to them, and hearing someone say, your parents are very brave, it's like, oh, this guy obviously knew my parents, he might know what happened to him. I mean, like, it's almost like when someone, of course, at this point, Ezra's still kind of searching for, we doesn't know where they've gone to, but it'd be like, someone in our family that has passed, and your only link to them is someone that knew them personally, has stories they can tell you, and if you're obviously missing your parents, you have abandonment issues, and there's this one person that has this information for you, I think that's where a lot of his motivation came from. So he might, because of that, he was probably blind to every, like the little things we were talking about.
If again, here's the thing, Travis wasn't a friend to them. He knew them.
Like, in his vision, it sounded like this guy personally knew his parents.
Yeah, exactly.
But he didn't, in the long run. And I think that, wanting to have that connection with someone that knew his parents was kind of clouding
everything.
I like to use the word clouded for visions, if you notice. Clouded some things to where, I didn't get the full story because I was too focused on my parents and my relationship.
I only got part of it.
Yeah.
And then what's even worse is he tells Ezra that they're gone.
Which to him, he doesn't know what happened to him. And now you've got this guy who obviously probably's got good intel in the Empire. He's turned to the Empire. He might be thinking what he's saying is true. Maybe they are gone. Maybe they are dead. But
Hera still knows that information we don't know that Zebo told her.
Oh, that's true. I forgot about that.
So she steps in and says that they're not gone as long as what was it? What's the line she says?
As long as we fight the good fight, everything they
Spoke
for,
out for lives on.
or something like that.
So I know she's saying that as also a way to kind of
comfort.
comfort Ezra, but also she might know some information that she hasn't told Ezra yet.
That's true. I
So
didn't
there's
think
that
about
too.
that. I also like the animation of when he says that to Ezra, like, they're gone, and like his eyes widen, and then he literally like holds his head and like
stumbles
staggers backward, like he's been shot.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was interesting, like showing like a physical reaction to
Those words.
possible grief, you know.
Yeah. And of course, Hera just keeps approaching, and then he tries to fire, and of course he won't fire because it's not charged. She punches him, and then my favorite line, she says, a true rebel would know if he's holding a charged blaster, and she charges it back up. And then Ezra's like, I don't understand. She's like, he wasn't tired. He was waiting for Callus to catch up, and he wanted our secrets. So yeah, because she kind of has to explain to Ezra, no, this is what you've missed. Because you're not, you want to believe in him so bad that it's, yeah. And then after this moment, Kanan, Sabine, and Zeb show up, and I think Zeb says, what happened to the senator? And Hera says he was working for the Empire. And my favorite line from Kanan is, okay, guess he stays here. What are we doing? We gotta get out of here somehow.
That's funny.
So Callus catches up to him, but there's this problem with the fan that's still in the way. And Kanan uses the Force to slow it down so they can pass through, which I don't know if maybe it's happened in Clone Wars, of any other instance where they've
Had to deal with a fan. I'm sure,
fan.
probably.
I know you do on Jedi Order.
Yeah,
a lot of fans.
A lot of time.
And then there's this moment where they all get through, and then Ezra gets through, and this is just very, interesting moment where he turns back at Travis, not happy.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
And then he's the last to leave, and of course Callus looks at him.
We just utter disdain.
Yeah, really, dude? And then
I just smelled something bad, kind of.
And Travis is still holding his face where he got punched, okay, well, you were a lot of help.
But also, I think it's, when I told you about this earlier, it's Callus, crap, we can't use you anymore.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that as well. I'm going through this episode way too fast. Because Travis mentioned, she said, how come people don't know
about that you're a defector?
He said, well, one, not even my droids know that I'm working for the Empire. Two, anybody that does know is either captured,
or killed,
or tracked.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nobody knows now except the Ghost Crew.
Yeah, he said, I think the rebels are isolated and tracked, they're monitoring their motions, but if they get troublesome, like the rebel crew, I mean our Ghost Crew is, they're killed. Which is interesting because now that they know, I mean, she's got Fulcrum, her intel, she's going to tell that person that, hey, and they're going to blast it to every other rebel cell. Honestly, I've talked about smack about the Empire a lot. We've talked about how incompetent they are, but this deception with Travis and also Luminara was actually pretty well thought out.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I think we do get hints that Callus knew that he was a traitor. Just by that small interaction between him and Minister Tua.
He knew.
But that look he gives him, crap, we can't use you anymore.
So you're not any use.
So now you have a defector who's basically hated by both sides. Which brings me back to Benedict Arnold, the most notorious traitor ever.
That's true.
Both sides hated him.
I want to know, we don't really get it. Why did Travis go with the Empire? Did he do it out of fear?
That's a good question. We only get some notes about his motivation is that he says, I joined the Empire like your parents should have. So I'm wondering, did he just think, was it, maybe Luke in the beginning of A New Hope? It's inedible. There's no use fighting them. Was it kind of that, just giving up? Or was it, do I get something out of this? We don't get anything.
Him?
Are they paying? We don't get anything more than that. But then he does mention survival. He said, your parents would have survived, you would have survived, been better off if you.
So after all this is said and done, they get back on the Ghost. And of course, Ezra is like, I was so wrong. My vision was totally wrong. And that's when Kanan finally says, I don't think he said it this whole episode, your emotions clouded the vision.
Mm-hmm.
Which you touched on about his connection with his parents. And he says their visions are almost impossible to interpret. And we had that last little moment with him and Ezra where he's like, what's the last vision you had? He's like, so this bratty kid who constantly calls me trouble.
And I'm curious though, like, is that truly his last vision that he had, or was he just making a joke? Like, I kind of want to know, like, what was his last vision?
And then we have this nice little moment with Hera. And she says, I wanted to believe in him just as much as you did. So she's disappointed too. And I love this probably one of my favorite moments between the two of the entire series is, he said, what's wrong with us? And then Hera says, we have hope that things can get better. And they will. And that to me is just so beautiful, because to me, that's what the entire original trilogy is about. It's about hope for a new day, hope there's going to be a new tomorrow, hope that this war is going to be swift and end and we'll be free.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so beautiful about this. It's just the word hope to me.
Yeah, plus I love how they finished that. I say they, I guess it's Henry's writing. He finishes that quote with, and they will. Like, it doesn't just end with, hope that things can get better. No, it's, and they will.
And they
so
will.
It's, like, very positive, affirming. Because with hope, there's always the flip side of it.
Yeah.
There's you crash and burn, and it sucks when your hopes are dashed.
Mm-hmm. Which they were in this episode.
Which they were. But then, I think here has a reminder of, and they will, like, okay, dust ourselves off, it's gonna be all okay. Like, it's one thing for your hopes to be dashed, but you can't linger in that. You have to move forward.
Yeah. And that's just her as a character, too.
Yeah.
She has a lot of hope. Even, I think I touched on it even in the episode with her and Sabine, where she's so...
just unquestionable, really.
She believes in it
Devotion.
so she truly, truly, truly believes that what they're fighting for and fighting against matters and is going to matter in the end.
Mm-hmm.
You're facing basically the Roman Empire or the Nazis, and you think you're going to win. You think you've already won. That's a lot of faith.
Yeah, a lot of faith and devotion to a cause, obviously. Any other thoughts about this episode? Like, I love that little quote at the end. That's, like, one of my favorite quotes.
I have a couple trivias. So the new Freedom Mural wall was inspired by art created in the USA from 1935 to 1943 during kind of like the World War II. If you roll like at World War II, like posters and things like that. That's what it was inspired by. But if you're interesting thing, if you look at the mural, it says, in addition to agriculture, you can see that fisheries were once a major industry on Lethal, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, is that the mural that he's standing in front of? We need to, like, look at that, dissect it, like, what's on this.
I just thought it was interesting that fisheries were once a major industry in Lethal. Where's the lakes?
Where's the water?
Exactly.
Do they mine it like Tatooine? Is the Tatooine thing? Like,
I just thought it was interesting. How do y'all fish? Another interesting thing about Gal Travis is he is voiced by Brent Spiner, which I find kind of funny because he's in Star Trek, and you have that
Data.
whole like debate of
fighting between Star Trek and Star Wars,
which I find funny. And also his look was inspired by David Niven.
I can see that.
Which is an old Hollywood actor.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, you can really, if you pull up a picture of him,
It's Gal Travis.
Yeah.
I also find it funny that Brent is kind of doing a British accent.
Yeah, which
when I first watched this episode, I kind of threw me off. I didn't know it was him until it went to the credits. Like, wait, what? That was who? I guess the accent threw me off.
I knew when I first watched it, I know that voice somewhere, but I can't. And then when I got to the end, I was like, oh, it's Data from Star Trek. I just think it's funny. You made the traitor Star Trek character. You think about it that way.
So we just outed ourselves that we know some Star Trek stuff to Star Wars fans.
Hey, there's actually a lot of people on Twitter that love Star Trek and Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there is like an infighting that goes on.
Every May the 4th. Oh, you also have here the working title for this episode was Lure.
Yeah.
Like a fishing lure? Like luring people?
Yeah, luring you to a trap.
Bait.
I can see why they didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
But also the title is Vision of Hope.
Isn't the title's misleading?
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh yeah, we got a friend on
Well,
our
not
side.
technically. I mean, initially, yes, it was a vision of hope, but then
True.
you realize it's not.
Anything else about this episode?
I can't think of anything. What would you rate it?
Oh, I
Out
forgot
of
our rating.
I just wrote mine down if you heard the pen scribbling. I'm covering up with my hands so you can see.
Oh man, this is a good episode too. I really like it. I liked it when it aired. I liked it. I rewatched it a ton because I love it so much. What's your rating?
I gave it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10? I was gonna say 6 out of 10.
So it's actually lower than mine.
Yeah, I was gonna.
I was expecting it to be higher. Like,
I
I've
know.
watched it all the time.
think-
This is my favorite episode.
I think it's
I'm gonna
because
give
of
it a
that
6.
I'm trying to be unbiased, so I'm like, I'll give it a 6. Just, in the middle.
It's like, I'll just wait to hear yours and go one below that. Any favorite moments besides the quote at the end?
the ending scene is just so powerful.
Yeah.
What is your favorite moments?
I'm trying to think. Just like that little scene between Ezra, Hera, and Travis. Alright, you can find Rebels Remembered on X, on YouTube, and something else we'll announce in the next episode. So everyone have an awesome day.